Hi, hello, it's Sugar. Here's my guide to Gnarlroot on normal and heroic difficulty. This fight has two phases, with the second starting at 100 energy. For positioning, you have a few options. Keep it simple and stay in the middle, or drag him over to a wall to make ad gathering easier. Be aware, he'll walk back to the center at the start of phase 2. Pre-assign some areas for players to head to during that, as the roots create LOS issues. Hero can either be used on pull or at the end of phase 2 when he has a damage taken increase debuff. The first mechanic we see is called Tortured Scream. Healers should be aware of this as it repeats frequently throughout the fight. It does raid-wide AoE and leaves behind a 10-second dot. Tanks deal with Dreadfire Barrage. This channeled ability deals physical and Shadowflame damage, and increases Shadowflame damage taken by 24% per stack for 34 seconds. It has 5 impacts in total, and can be swapped at 2 to 3 impacts or on every other cast. The main mechanic of this fight is Flaming Pestilence. This sends fire patches from beneath Gnarlroot in an X pattern. Some patches from each direction will turn into Tainted Lashers. In normal difficulty, these spawn on their own, but in heroic, they're dormant and need to be awakened using controlled burn. Drop this 20-yard circle on them to wake them up. On both difficulties, it will leave behind Scorched-Earth. These patches persist until phase 2, and any new dormant Lashers planted in them spawn instantly. Any Lashers that aren't awakened with controlled burn will spawn as phase 2 begins in heroic. These Lashers need to be tanked, and managing them is a high priority. When they spawn, Tainted Bloom bursts the raid with damage for each Lasher awakened. Their Shadow Spines target random players, dealing upfront damage followed by a 10% damage taken increase and 15-second bleed. The same player can be targeted multiple times, allowing this to stack and be extra deadly. Vicious Thicket buffs Slashers within 10 yards of each other, increasing damage and haste by 10% in stacking. At 15 stacks, they become Overgrown, making them immune to interrupts and CC. Ideally, we want to avoid this. I'd suggest delaying Lashers with CC so there aren't more than 15 grouped up in one area at a time, or marking a few and burning them quickly could be viable so long as they lose their stacks. Next, we'll look at Shadowflame Cleave. This frontal targets a random player. This can be baited by stacking the group together, but it's not that hard to dodge as long as you're closer to the boss. Phase 2 begins when Gnarlroot reaches 100 energy and begins channeling Doom Cultivation, shielding himself from all damage, spawning Doom roots around the room, and pulsing raid-wide AoE every 5 seconds until the phase ends. The raid should pre-spread before this begins because toxic Loam will make crossing through the middle deadly. In heroic, pieces of Splintering charcoal crash down around the room. These need to be soaked to gain 5 stacks of the Ember Charred debuff, allowing players to ignite 1 Doom root per stack by running next to them. This also does light ticking damage until it's removed. Any Splintering charcoal that isn't soaked does raid-wide AoE. In normal, this works a little differently. It's called Searing Bramble, and instead of falling on areas of the room, it selects random players to soak on, and there is no raid-wide penalty if the mechanic isn't soaked. I think this phase is the most healing intensive, so ensure your healers are covering the entire room and prepare to use a CD or 2 here. As the phase ends, Gnarlroot is immobilized by Uprooted Agony, causing him to pulse the raid with light ticking damage and take 100% increased damage for 20 seconds. When this ends, he's buffed with Rising Mania, increasing his damage by 10%. From here, it's rinse and repeat until the boss is defeated. I'll leave you with my TLDR of the fight and all its abilities. You can find a link to this image and all of my other boss guides in the description. More boss guides are coming soon, but I'll have to wait till I have footage from live to finish some of the later ones. Good luck in your raid. Okay, bye!